loves radio.
Welcome, Mets fans, to the 8th episode of the MetsBeat podcast. Find us on Twitter at MetsBeat with over 2,200 followers. We're brought to you by GothamGoldGrass.com and streaming live from the biggest and baddest comedy shop on the island, Governors, in Levittown. We have a stellar show planned for you. We're talking Mickey Callaway, the Yanks postseason run, the departure of Joe Girardi, and of course, our critically acclaimed Gentlemen's League Stardom Situm. But first, how you living, D. Trizzle?
I made it back from Vegas in one piece, so I'm living all right. Yeah, it was absolutely a great vacation, great way to spend my 21st birthday. Glad to be back safe and sound.
And you're wearing pink shirts now.
Hey, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so that's Sky Zone lets us expand the parameters during the month of October.
I immediately regret not realizing that. It's been that type of day for me.
That's all right. It's also the tail end of October, so, you know.
You know what, though? I'm a big, I think you know, I'm sure you're bigger than me, I'm a big supporter of anything that has to do with cancer research. So definitely hope that they made strides this month, and hopefully, you know, something will come out soon saying, you know, how great October was, you know, just collecting money and funds for research and all that stuff.
Not just research, hopefully just, you know, for medical expenses for current patients as well. Anything the money can go towards.
No, great point. Anybody that's out there, you know, feeling from it, know somebody, we definitely wish you the best. That said, the Mets threw us a curveball, hired Mickey Callaway as their 21st manager in team history. D-Train, why don't you break down for us whatever background you know, and we'll start there.
Well, I mean, he was a former player, short stint, only a few seasons as a pitcher. But, you know, he made his impact in Major League Baseball as a coach, as a pitching coach with the Indians most recently.
Right.
Wound up getting a Cy Young Award out of Kluber in 2014. So, you know, Mickey Callaway definitely had a hand involved with that, which is exactly what the Mets need right now. They have, you know, one of the best pitching staffs. They need a guy who can, you know, monitor their innings and their pitches and, you know, try to blossom them, teach them how to pitch opposed to just throw the ball.
Sure.
And I think he's going to fit in very well with these guys.
I think he was the Indians pitching coach, correct me if I'm wrong, 03 to 07. I think it was the past 2017 and 4 years prior. 2000,
right.
What is that? I can't
13,
add today.
13 to 17.
13 to 17.
Right.
So he had 4 years of a focus on pitching, which, like you said, is huge for us because our strength is supposed to be the pitching. I know that health has been a large part of that. I'm glad that he comes in with that focus. You know, I watched the press conference live. It was on SNY. It was on the radio broadcast for WOR. He was really excited for the job, and you have to love that, and I appreciate that. There's a difference between being giddy and being fiery, and I think that this guy was giddy. I hope when he steps onto the field, he gets some grit, and I hope that, you know, it's funny. My best friend was like, well, I hope this guy gets thrown out of the game, you know, opening day and really sets the tone for it. Because that's what we really want, because I don't think he was talking about being behind all these players and being behind their back. To me, this Mets team needs a kick in the ass, and it needs a fire squad leader. And I hope that he can be that guy. I don't know that if you saw any of the press conference, but I didn't see that from him. I got this, I can't really say it on radio. I got this softness out of him that I didn't like. And that scares me a little bit. But what was your take from any of it? And if you didn't see it, you know,
I
just
did hear a clip,
I
I believe, about him saying that something along the lines of he just wants to see the work, not the numbers, but hopefully the work represents what the numbers are. And if they work hard, you'll see the good numbers come out. So you like to see, you know, hear things like that.
Sure.
But when you say you wanted to see someone fiery come in, that's where I thought Buck Showalter would have fit with them. But then again, you also wanted a younger guy,
right.
So that's where Buck didn't fit in. So I don't know if he's going to provide that type of spark, but, you know, like I had said earlier, at least he's a former pitching coach. He's a former pitcher in the bigs, so he's going to be able to link with these guys. His former players always pan out to be great managers in, you know, most cases. So we'll see what he can do here.
You know, this was definitely out of left field. His name wasn't even brought up when we were talking about candidates. Last Mets beat, we were talking about Robin Ventura, and he basically said, "I'm not working this year," which was I thought was a little bit of a surprise. I don't mind the Mickey Callaway signing. I'm a little scared, especially now that Girardi is on the block, because I don't know what's going to happen with the Nats. I don't know if Terry says, "Yeah, you gave me a front office job, Terry Collins, but they want me to manage. Maybe I'll go do that," like they did with Davey Johnson a couple years ago. And you don't know if you lose Kevin Long because he feels slighted going to the Nationals. And we'll get into Girardi later. We'll quickly cover all the Mets news that I saw coming in today. I think next up for the Metropolitans is, like I said, finding a replacement hitting coach for Kevin Long. I think on the free agent front, I did think that maybe bringing in an R.A. Dickey, a veteran guy, would be a nice piece for this ball club.
Now, do you mean a guy like R.A. Dickey, or you mean bring him back specifically?
Yeah, I would say R.A. Dickey or a guy like that. I probably said it wrong, like I'm on zero sleep, as we know we started the show. But a guy like that, a veteran presence, almost like a Bartolo Colon type, but younger.
On the other side of 40, right?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sure. I mean, not that far away from 40, but at least on the other side. The Mets have 5 days after the World Series to pick up their option on Asdrubal Cabrera. We'll see what they choose to do with that. But, D-Train, let's get into your Yanks. Before we get into Girardi, because that's obviously the biggest piece of news for today, talk to me about the postseason run. You asked me about my prediction. I thought the Dodgers would go. They're there. I did want to see the Yankees there. Give me your feedback on what you saw. I mean, they took it 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible series. I told you it'd be a classic, and I don't know if every game panned out to be a classic, but the fact that the series went the distance really went to prove the talent of each team, especially games 1 and 2 being a 2-1 final in both games. You had Game 1 where Greg Bird gets thrown out at the plate, so you change the whole outcome of that game. He winds up hitting the solo home run as the only run of the game. And then the following game we lose. That actually happened in Game 2. Game 1, we lost, in the bottom of the 9th. Verlander had pitched a great game. But unfortunately, Altuve scored from first base on what everyone thought would have been, just runners on second and third. But, he hustled, he scored, he won that ball game in walk-off fashion. And then we won our 3 straight in the Bronx. And the Yankees showed you the real Yankees, how they got there, the type of players, the home runs in the key situations, keeping the lineup moving. It was so fun to hear the stadium roar the way it did for the first time since 2009.
Right.
Because although they made the playoffs the following years until 2014, it just wasn't the same. It didn't sound like the old stadium. It didn't sound like the Yankee fans we know. So that was a really fun thing to see. I wanted a ticket. I wanted to go to a World Series game if they were going to make it. I was hiding money from myself on my vacation in case they had clinched. I was going to go on SeatGeek or Ticket Exchange, try to get a ticket.
Very nice.
So, it was really good to see everyone perform again at such a high level, because this became a Mets town. It really did. Long Island,
Sure.
Getting the national attention over the last couple of years, whether it was when they won the pennant or, the year after when they were in the wild card game. So to be able to have the Yankees back on the front page of the newspaper and in the storylines has been really exciting.
All good points. I have 2 immediate questions for you. So one would be, did you bet the Yankees while you were in Vegas? And 2, what was the biggest factor in the Yankees not being able to move on?
So
what could they have done better?
I did not put money on the Yankees. I was going to put it on Game 7. I decided not to, because I always say every time I put money on the Yankees, they don't do well.
Okay.
I.e. our Judge bet, where he was on pace for 60 home runs and came to a screeching halt after I placed that bet with you.
He did. But you paid up like a man.
I did. The Achilles heel for the Yankees this postseason, I don't want to say it was the bullpen, because they had such a big workload that you knew that they weren't going to come through every time, and unfortunately that happened in the key spots that you need. We're not used to not having Mariano Rivera to get us to 6 outs, but luckily we have 6 different guys that could come in for an inning each. What we saw from Betances was horrible. He came in with a runner on first, walked 2 guys, and luckily we got out of that game with Chapman. But if the starting pitching was there, if we had Michael Pineda, he was having the best season of his career before he ended up on the DL with Tommy John surgery. We didn't know Sabathia would be who he is. We didn't know Tanaka would perform the way he is, and Severino. And
certainly.
So if we would have had that fourth guy or really that fifth guy with Montgomery as well, I think we really could have made that one little stride, that one little hair that we needed to win Game 7. And really, the offense just did not show up in Game 7. We were shut out. It was a great performance again by Verlander, so tip the caps to the Astros, and we'll see him again next year and plenty of years to come.
It's funny because I was going to say, the Mets' biggest strength coming into the season was their pitching staff, and the Yankees' biggest strength was their bullpen. And I was going to say, isn't it funny how, baseball's so unpredictable that your biggest strength can become a weakness? But it's actually not true. I said it, but it was, like you said, it was the pitching. It was the starting pitching, and that taxed the bullpen. So I think you kind of nailed it. I think they're a starter or two away from relieving that bullpen a little bit, and I do agree with you that this team is going to be there for a long time. I really do. So I asked you what they could have changed and what their flaw was. What was the biggest positive, the biggest takeaway? And for me, was the experience that these young guys gained.
Yeah,
so I don't know if I'm not trying to steal it from you, but what was that biggest thing that you took away from it?
Well, it was definitely great to see these guys get 50-plus at-bats, Bird, Judge, Sanchez,
Amazing.
Right. Amazing. I mean, even Gregorius getting his first taste of postseason play.
You can't buy it.
Right. No, not at all. And the situations that they came through in, when Judge was he was slumping, he set the record for most strikeouts in a postseason, but yet he comes through with the game-tying RBI double.
Great
and then Sanchez right behind him, also struggling, comes through with the go-ahead RBI, two-run double, I'm pretty sure it was, actually. So to see them come through in the big spots like that, and another thing that I have to say about Judge, his defense, that it never slumps. You saw him rob 2 different home runs this postseason, diving plays, back up against the wall, diving into the infield. He does it all. So I think it was really great to see the 2 MVP candidates go toe-to-toe in the championship series, because you got Judge or Altuve as, 1 and 2. It'll probably go to Altuve as the batting champion. He's been falling short of Trout the last few years, so it'd be nice to see Altuve get it. It'd also be really cool to see Judge sweep with the, Rookie of the Year and the MVP as well.
Sure. I think you hit the nail on the head with the recovery and the maturity that these young hitters showed. And to me, for my money, that's what made Jeter so special was, you almost forget all the times that he did strike out and he didn't come through, because there were so many more times that he did come through. And he was only able to do that because he had a very short memory. And that was huge to me, to be able to see Judge hit that home run that just went over the porch in left field. I forget which game it was.
That was Game 4 or 5. That was one of the first 2 games at the Bronx.
His defense didn't suffer, like you said. It was big. These kids are mature. You saw it in the Derby with Judge. The guy did. We talked about it. The guy did an interview 5 minutes before he got up there and then smacked the ball around the park. His maturity level is so beyond where it should be that I just feel like his future is so bright. And you look at a guy like OBJ and his maturity level.
I was just going to say Cam Newton.
You could say
storming
Cam
out
Newton
of another
too.
Press conference now.
I think OBJ is the perfect example in the same market. Not to denigrate your example, but you see a guy that's bawling, crying, and a baby, and getting upset, and
peeing
all
this, on the pretending to pee like a dog on the field.
All this stuff, and then you see a guy like Judge. Listen, there is a microscope on these guys, more so than it was when Jeter played. And Jeter had the George Clooney lifestyle. You never saw him get in trouble. He kind of Michael Jordan the whole thing. And it was all hidden away. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does that stuff. But when you want to be in the forefront in the limelight, you're going to make mistakes. And they're going to come out eventually. And I think it'll come out in a guy like OBJ, because I think he'll put himself in immature situations way more than Judge is going to. And that's a wonderful thing moving forward. Now listen, we teased it the whole show. I want to know from your take, the Girardi departure. I was shocked by the news today. Was I the person that broke it to you?
You were. I usually get an at-bat notification as soon as anything Yankee-related happens.
Right.
You said it, so that's why I did the respond with question marks, you can react to a message.
Right.
And, I jumped on MLB at-bat right away, and sure enough, there's the big headline. And my first reaction instantly felt it in my chest, like sadness.
Oh, wow.
Because
okay. That's good.
I started watching the Yankees the year he took over, full-time in 2008.
Right.
Ironically enough, the first year they don't make the playoffs.
Well, tell everybody your age.
Oh, just recently 21.
That's what I'm saying. So but I'm
born during the
for a
1996 World
35-year-old.
Series.
If you only started watching the Yanks 8 years ago, I'm gonna have to get another co-host. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But your credibility. But that's true though, because we were around the same age when. I mean, I'm only 33, but that's that same age. So what was it? 21 minus 8. We all know my math skills.
I was
here.
like, I want to say 10, 11 at the time.
So I was around the same age. We really start paying attention. You become that fanhood.
Right.
You know what I mean? So go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, so the whole time I've ever seen the Yankees, I've seen them with Girardi, and every year it seems like there's these team of Girardi haters that I can never fathom where they're coming from, because if you looked at the team, I wish I had brought it up, the teams he was given from 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, these were horrible lineups and starting rotations that he squeezed not only winning records out of, but higher 80s, 91 wins out of these teams.
Sure. Well, what was the best team that he's ever had besides this one? Teixeira and CC when they first got signed?
I mean, you could say it was the 09 Yankees because they won the ring, so that's the easiest one to turn to.
Well, it's that one and then the year before, because they were signed the year before, right?
No, they were signed. They were brought in to win the ring, and they did. So
okay,
08
was the same year?
Yeah, 08 was the final year at the old stadium. We missed the playoffs. 09 is we make the playoffs. We win the ring. We brought in Burnett, Teixeira, CC, even traded for Nick Swisher, which was a huge addition on that team. So that team, I don't want to say was the most talented, because there was really just a lot of guys doing a lot of things to make wins happen. You had Melky Cabrera having walk-off hits. I wouldn't say Melky Cabrera is any more talented than any one of the 25 guys on the 2017 New York Yankees. I think last year's New York Yankees was one of the best teams he ever managed.
Right.
We traded away everybody, and he still finished within a few games of a wild card spot with an above 81 win record again. Again, despite trading away all those pieces. So over the years, he's been given some horrible hands, but he's played them very well.
Okay, so my first reaction was pissed off, and it wasn't because. All right, I had a lot of feelings coming at me. One, why that? It's almost like the New York Knicks thing. So you let Phil Jackson draft Ntilikina, then you fire Phil Jackson. Why the hell why did that have to happen a week before? So I know you're not a Knicks fan. I'm trying to paint this.
It's just hard to draw the parallel since he's not the GM, though. He can still develop these young players, even though you're going to pull the plug on them.
Why that? No, not for that reason. Why the hell do we get a coach? Do we get a manager in Mickey Callaway, and a week later Girardi's available? And it's just the timing.
They should have waited it out.
The timing just pisses me off. I almost don't. No, it's the way the cookie crumbled. It wasn't like Sandy's not sitting there like, oh, I hope Girardi leaves. I hope Girardi. You can't wait for that. And I totally get it. That was just so that was my first feeling. The second feeling that I had was, this isn't a Billy Martin thing. Like, Girardi's not fighting with Hal. It's not going anywhere. And honestly, even if it was, okay, let's do Yankee history. And let's go back and forth a little bit and fight a little bit. And at the end of the day, he comes back. Because Girardi didn't do anything egregious that he shouldn't come back. On top of the fact, he took a team that wasn't even supposed to go to the playoffs, and he took them all the way to a game away from go to the World Series. I would have liked to have seen a statement, whether it was true or not, saying Girardi decides to leave.
Right.
It does
That's
not
exactly
make
what
any
shocked me the
sense
most, that
to
they
me.
didn't offer him the contract.
How can the Yankees let him go?
I think the only one thing that could make any plausible sense is that he's an old-fashioned guy. Yes, the Yankees use the shift. Yes, we use analytics.
Right.
But he is not going to be a 100% sabermetric guy moving forward. So, I could see why they don't do it. 10 years, he got the one ring, didn't make the playoffs 4 times. In Yankee land, that is virtually unacceptable,
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
He also makes $4 million. They're trying to get under this, luxury tax. I don't know if the managerial, staff or, coaching staff counts towards that, but it's another way to get underneath. He makes $4 million a year.
It does.
He's the
count.
second highest paid, manager in baseball.
Unless I'm mistaken, I do believe it counts towards that. And all right, then restructure his contract. Correct me if I'm wrong from a Yankee fan perspective, but from a Met fan perspective, I saw this team almost go to the World Series with an incredible new core, and I'm thinking, that's it. This offseason, we buy like the Yankees. We buy like it's a New York market, the way the Mets should.
And you let Murph go.
And you let Girardi take him. Like, to me, this is set up perfectly for the next decade. How do you let Girardi go? Who are you bringing in that's better? Mattingly's not coming here now.
It's got to be an internal guy. It's got to be a Tony Pena, Rob Thompson, a guy like that.
Is there any way Mattingly is a candidate? No, right?
No, because he had his chance in 08 and they didn't give it to him. And based off what he's done with the Marlins and Dodgers, he brought the Dodgers to how many division series games and how many did he win? Not many.
Mark my words, I think we're going to hear something about why this went down. There has to be something in the background.
I think they were afraid. This isn't a realistic thing. I think a possibility is that they were afraid of him rejecting it, because I still think that there was a chance that
rejecting what?
A contract offer. I still think that there's a chance.
Girardi?
I still believe there's a chance that he wouldn't have come back.
No way.
But the fact that they didn't offer him he's a family man. He even said in his final post game press conference, I got to speak to the wife and kids first, and then he even followed it up by saying, I got to see what the Yankees are thinking. I can't just assume they're offering me the job. So
he's all right. He's a family man. And he is a true pinstriper if there ever was one. You put him with Donnie Baseball, you put him with Jeets.
You could put him with Yogi Berra, more specifically because he's a catcher who won rings as a player and a manager.
But what I'm saying is, his loyalty is obviously with his family. I know he's a family man. Good point. But I know his heart is with the Yankees.
Especially seeing the corner we just turned.
So it's really odd to me that it would ever get fiery behind closed doors, because he doesn't strike me as a guy that says, I need another $4 million per year that I need to get paid, or whatever the figure is. I almost feel like it's, you know what, Joe? I'm Hal. You know what,
He would
Joe?
take 2.5.
I'm not gonna. This is my Hal. I'm not gonna pay you that. I'm not gonna. It's like a little bit of Trump. I'm not gonna pay you that.
Wrong.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and if that's the case, then it's all right, Joe. Then the news article is Joe decides to spend more time with his family. There was no reason for it to go this way, and that's what didn't make sense to me this morning.
It's not written by Hollywood writers.
I wanted to talk about it now. I understand that, but something else must have went on, that there was some sort of conflict that the Yankees felt a little slighted.
Well,
that would be my prediction.
I hate to just discredit him. I'm just not as much of a big fan as Mike Francesa as I am the Michael Kay show and Don and Peter.
Good show.
But Mike, I heard him briefly today on the radio say he had sources tell him that it seemed like it was going in this direction, that the Yankees and there was tension between the Yankees and Girardi, and that it seemed as though they would not be renewing his contract. And I don't know if that's true or not. I feel like he's only saying that because it went this way. I feel like he would have said the same exact words if it went the other way. But
I think that, listen, the Michael Kay show probably is better at this point. Francesa is a legend.
Especially the simulcast. They're much better to watch on TV.
He does have his sources, I'm sure. I think he basically took a stance the way I did, saying that there's something behind closed doors that happened, and he just took it a step further and kind of said there had to have been some sort of tension, and he just said, all right, my sources said there was some tension. And I believe that that has to be the case. For it to have ended and unfolded this way, it has to be the case. You know what I mean? But, all right, let's move on. Let's move on to the epic segment that has become probably the number one segment for the MetsBeat podcast and kind of catapulted itself into the Gentleman's League segment for the MetsBeat podcast, and that is the Stardom Sit-'em.
Yes, Stardom Sit-'em, brought to you by the Gentleman's League. The Gentleman's League current standings has B-Mel in second to last now, as he is no longer winless. Yeah, B-Mel came out with his victory by a 400th of a point. He had
Still counts.
Yeah, he had about I believe a 30-point lead going into that final game. His player scored about 17 points, so he went out with a .40 lead.
So it's so funny because the entire year, I'm religious about bed. I like because I don't function well when I don't sleep. So I try to get into bed by 10 o'clock. It takes me like 2 hours to go to sleep. I'm like a little sissy. Anyways, all year, Sunday nights and Monday nights, I always say, screw it. I have to go to bed. I can't watch this. So for weeks 0 through 6, I stayed up and I got heartbroken. 0 through 6 because I've lost the past 3 weeks on Sunday night at 1 o'clock. I've been leading all day on Sunday and lost at midnight, okay? And I'm like, I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it again.
And it almost happened on that final drive.
So now I'm up all day. Sunday night comes. I'm like, I know this script. I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. That's it. I'm laying in bed, and I do not fall asleep till 1 a.m. And I'm like, do not check the phone. You're not allowed to check the phone. Don't check the phone. Here it is. I should have just stayed up and watched the game. But the agita, I may have had a heart attack, God forbid, because I don't know if you saw the end of the game, but my opponent, Jimmy, went up by a point. And then the last play for the Redskins was a screen pass to Chris Thompson, which he looked like he was totally dead in the backfield.
And you would have lost points on that.
Lost points. I was losing already by 1 at that point. He bounced off the tackle, went 20 yards, and I got up by however many points you want to say.
Wow, I didn't know it happened like that.
I think I would have. I honestly would have lost my mind.
All right, so right now you're hitting 600 in your start-sit advice.
What was last week?
Last week you had a down week, so after going 4-5, last week you only went 2-5. You got the Austin Jenkins and the Brandon Cooks, and also you said Amendola would do better than Hogan, so I'll give you a half point there.
Why just a half point?
Because that wasn't actually part of the start-sit. It was between Chris Hogan or Brandon Cooks, and you said Amendola would get more than Hogan.
Really should get a full point.
No.
All
right, but yeah, I also do want to note that B-Mel did lose 2 weeks ago, highlighted by Houston's defense scoring 22 points against him. So he went 1-1 over the last 2 weeks, and as did I. So
keep in mind, I have scored over 140 points for the past 3 weeks. I am second in the league at 830 or 60 points. It's sad that I even know that. I'm second in the league points for.
Right.
I am first in the league points against.
And right behind him is myself with the points against. We both have just had a horrible, horrible hand. Luckily, I've pulled out a 3-4 record. Unfortunately, you with the 1-6. So moving forward,
I'm still going to make the playoffs.
And so will the Mets.
I'm going to make the playoffs. I'll even make a bet with you. I need odds on that.
No, I can't.
People are afraid to make bets with me because I always win.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
Now, moving forward, we'll start with the wide receiver section. You have Kenny Stills at Baltimore or Deshaun Jackson versus Carolina, potentially without Luke Kuechly.
Where are the games?
Well, Kenny Stills will be visiting Baltimore, so they're in Baltimore, and Deshaun Jackson is hosting the Carolina Panthers. Possibly Devontae Parker will be out of this game.
I think Mike Evans is going to get a lot of action, but I think he's going to be paid attention to a lot. And to me, this is the feel of a Deshaun Jackson 3-catch game, and he's going to break one for 40 to 60 yards. Like, I just think he's a game breaker, and I think he gets one of those this week. I go with Deshaun Jackson.
All right. Yeah,
I don't like – I picked up the Baltimore defense. I love them at home. I think Baltimore controls the game with the run. I think it's a slow game, and I think it's I haven't
I'll tell you right now, Matt Moore's been doing great as their quarterback. I don't know how safe I'd feel with the Baltimore defense.
I haven't seen the weather yet. I don't know, man. I have a feeling at Baltimore at home, Deshaun Jackson, and hopefully Baltimore steps up.
All right, so we'll bounce into the tight end department here with Jack Doyle at Cincinnati. Jack Doyle of the Indianapolis Colts, or Kyle Rudolph, a Viking, going into Cleveland. Both guys on the road here.
So that's actually a really tough one and a really good one by you. The reason I'm going to go with the surprise here, and I'm going to go with Jack Doyle because Cincy's corners are pretty good, and I think they're going to have to funnel their passes over the middle. I think Brissett is starting, right?
Correct.
For the Colts. I think he checks down a lot and it's going to be 10-yard dump-offs. And I really think Doyle has a lot of catches, dinks and dunkers, 10 yards or so. Kyle Rudolph, the only way he beats me here is with a touchdown. They're supposed to get Diggs back. I think Thielen is going to have a day. And I think that, yeah, I'm going with Doyle.
Okay.
Now, odd pick.
Sticking with that Cincy-Indianapolis matchup, how about Joe Mixon at home versus Indianapolis, or C.J. Anderson on the road against Kansas City?
Another really tough one. I like it. You're really stepping your game up. So I'm playing. Well, I'm going to make it personal now. I'm playing Dixon next week. So the way I'm hoping it goes is Dixon has a redonkulous game this week and just totally craps the bed next week. So that's what I'm hoping for. That said, C.J. Anderson is going against who?
He's going into Kansas City.
So Kansas City's got a much better defense, and what I'm worried about, and the reason I traded him a couple weeks ago, is they're going to start to utilize Jamal Charles a little bit more. They got to get him a bunch of touches, especially if they're going to try to make a playoff push. And I think they're going to start to mix in Booker a lot. So I am going to go the opposite way.
It'll be a little poetic getting Jamal Charles started in Kansas City. Get his reps up with the Broncos, right?
Yeah, it's going to be Mixon. It's absolutely going to be Mixon, and I hope my prediction is right. Mixon and my prediction.
All right.
Mixon is my prediction.
Moving into the quarterbacks, you have Ben Roethlisberger going into Detroit, or, again, back to that Indianapolis series, you have Andy Dalton at home versus Indianapolis.
This is beyond easy. It's Dalton all day.
Really?
It's Dalton all day.
Big Ben didn't have enough of a bounce back last game after that 5-in-toe game?
Ben on the road, awful. Ben against this Detroit defense, awful. Martavis Bryant is not going to play. Ben will get all his points from Le'Veon Bell, short passes to the end zone. They're going to cover Antonio, and Juju will probably have a decent game. Andy Dalton is set up for success.
Is he? I guess he's due to a certain degree, but since he hasn't performed yet, I just can't see him outscoring somebody like Big Ben, who can go off for 300 yards any day.
This is my strongest feeling on any of the start sits that you've given me, and you've done a great job with that. I'd put money on it. This is Dalton all day.
All right, so now with the fifth and final one, we'll go to a flex spot. So I'll compare a wide receiver to a running back, and we'll assume it's about a half or a full PPR for reference here. All right, so you have Golden Tate at home versus Pittsburgh, or Christian McCaffrey on the road against Tampa Bay.
So it's absolutely Christian McCaffrey because Golden Tate is questionable to play. I think they feature Galladay coming back, hasn't played since week 3. And the dark horse part of that is Jonathan Stewart is probably not going to play or is banged up.
Right, so less of the running back committee over there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That wraps up the start sit advice.
Cool. So hopefully I got it. That's it, folks. We hope you enjoyed the live cast from Governors. If you didn't, feel free to tell us at MetsBeat on Twitter, or you could just blame Graz, who will be taking phone calls, finally taking phone calls from the program following this on the Limo Talk Show. Good luck with fantasy. Let's go Mets. Keep it healthy. Keep it wealthy. He's D-Train. I'm Real B-Mel saying peace and love. We out.